We interrupt this program
to bring you Vikings Vent Line, the one show where you get to react to how the Purple played right away. Call in now with your thoughts on the game. 651-646-8255. This is Vikings Vent Line.
Goff, end zone, Gurley, touchdown. Play action to him. Goff floats Kupp downfield. What a throw! Cooper Kupp. Goodbye. Touchdown Rams. Brooks might have gotten away with a false start there. They didn't throw the flag. Now in the end zone. Kupp! Come on! Touchdown Rams! What a catch! What a throw!
651-646-8255, 877-615-1500. It is Viking Vent Line. It is Zolgad, Manny Hill, Jonathan Harrison producing. 38-31 loss for the Vikings, who now fall to 1-2-1. And I just did the math, folks. Kirk Cousins now, as a starting quarterback in the last 3+ years, Manny Hill, 35 fumbles, 14 lost, including the last one there, where he continues to not feel the pressure. But let's start with the main storyline of this game, which is, listen, Jared Goff is fantastic. I am floored by the performance of the Vikings defense.
Yeah, it was bad. There was no pressure applied on him in the first half. There was no pass rush. And, Sean McVay, this is why Sean McVay is 32 years old and is a head coach, because he is very good at discovering a weakness in a defense, discovering a weak link, discovering a way where he can expose something and taking advantage of it. And he's got the horses to do it. He's got a quarterback with a good arm and who's accurate. He's got skill position guys. He's got receivers and a terrific running back. And he found ways to put Anthony Barr on an island by himself multiple times, several times tonight. And he just flat out exposed the Vikings defense. And this is why he's 32 years old and he's coaching an NFL team, because he's that good. The
Jared Goff finishes tonight 26 of 33, 465 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, a 158.3 passer rating. That's perfect, ladies and gentlemen, is perfect.
Yeah. Kirk
Cousins, 36 of 50, 422 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 117.2 rating. Phone lines are full, 651-646-8255, 877-615-1500. As people drop off, we will take your call. Let's go to start with Jared. Hi, Jared. Your thoughts on tonight's game?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going. Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys hit on it. I just want to know what's going on with this defense. Is it just been that we've played a run of good quarterbacks, starting with Drew Brees back in last year's playoffs, and then the Super Bowl champs, Garoppolo, Rodgers, and now Jared Goff, or is there something really wrong with this defense? I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks, Jared.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we know how good Aaron Rodgers is. Jimmy Garoppolo is highly regarded. That's why the 49ers gave him a lot of money. And, Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally, he had a bad rookie year, but because he had a dinosaur as a head coach at the time. And now Sean McVay is doing wonders with this kid. And, yeah, I think that the Vikings defense has some problems right now. I think teams have found a way to move the ball on them a little bit. They found a way to expose some weaknesses.
Yeah, they're attacking the linebackers and the nickel position consistently, and
they
success.
found. And again, tonight the Rams found a way to get Anthony Barr in a situation where he was very uncomfortable, putting him in space, forcing him to cover wide receivers.
Yep.
Anthony Barr is a good athlete. We know that he's fast and athletic for the position that he plays, but he cannot be on an open island trying to catch up with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks. Like, he's not equipped to do that. And Sean McVay figured out a way to get him exposed on an island by himself, and part of it was Mackenzie Alexander, where the hell are you? And then part of it was not being able to get...
And that's the problem.
Yeah. And then you have the other part of it of not getting any sort of pressure on Jared Goff, and this is what you get. You get lit up for 500-some yards.
Phil, what's on your mind after a 38-31 Vikings loss tonight?
Anthony Barr should never be a man coverage ever again. If you're going to go nickel, just put Ben Gideon out there and have him as a pass rusher or something.
Well, I mean,
thanks, Phil.
I mean, I don't know if putting Ben Gideon is going to make a much of a difference in that point.
Okay, but to Phil's point, here's where I'll side with Phil. This is why Collar and I have sat in the press box before and said, this is why you want Barr to rush. This is why you want him. I'm always tempted to say, why not have his hand on the ground? Because in pass coverage, he's not very good.
Yeah.
And
especially right now, Jeb, with a game like tonight where your pass rush was struggling anyway, you might as well try and put Anthony Barr in that situation instead of leaving him in open space.
And against Jared Goff, he's really exposed, but we've seen him before try and cover guys, and he's not good at that.
He's not good at it.
So I don't understand why you're forcing something that you now have basically a history of it doesn't work. There was a lot of weird things. Now Trey Waynes went out in the first half.
Yeah.
Rhodes went out, I believe, in the fourth quarter with cramps. So
time?
So your and your secondary, though, the point was depleted.
Yeah.
There were some, and Griffin obviously didn't play, which hurt you from the right end because now Hunter has to move there, and Hunter's very good, but Weatherly's not as good as Griffin. So there were some problems there. I get that. But I don't understand the Anthony Barr in coverage. That always confuses me.
He's never been good at that.
Exactly. Exactly right. Let's continue on with the phone calls. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, I just feel like what we did today, we tried to, play the Warriors in a shootout. I mean, we got into a track meet, and, Sean McVay wanted this to be a track meet. I don't understand why Rhodes is covering shifty receivers. He's always struggled with shifty receivers. I mean, that's where you should probably put, Mike Hughes on him. I really honestly feel bad for Kirk Cousins because I don't think he signed up to, fight to the end like this. I'm thinking he's just thinking all I got to do is just not turn the ball over and score a couple touchdowns and we're going to win the game. He's actually played really good these 4 games. I just want to know what you guys think about that.
Thanks, Jordan. I agree, and listen, this offense is much improved. From 2 years ago, it's way improved.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no way on God's green earth that the intention was let's get into shootouts and try and have Kirk Cousins win us shootouts. You didn't sign him for that. You signed him to provide more stability than Keenum did or could, because your concern was that Case was going to become a pumpkin, which he sort of has in Denver. But this was all based, Cousins signed here for 3 years based on one thing. This defense can win us games, and I have to do enough to help. Not I have to go to the LA bleeping Coliseum and try and match passes with Jared Goff. That was not the intention here. The intention here was that you've got a great defense that a year ago was tops in scoring defense and also yards allowed.
Yeah.
And this defense looks, I'm shocked. This looks nothing. This doesn't resemble one iota of what we saw a year ago.
And you remember, what was the big thing we talked about last year, though, with the defense? They stayed healthy.
Yeah, true.
They were healthy all season long. And right now you have Everson Griffin out. You have Trey Waynes banged up. Xavier Rhodes dealing with cramps tonight. You've got your linebackers, Barr and Kendricks. I mean, where is Eric Kendricks right now? Where is Eric Kendricks?
Collar has said on numerous occasions through the first 3 games that he's taken a major step backwards.
Yeah. I mean, we've barely said his name. We've barely even noticed him out there at all.
Yeah. Hey, Mike.
Can you tell me, I've seen it for 2.5 years now, and am I the only one that is watching Trey Waynes and saying, how is this guy a starting cornerback in the National Football League, especially with a coach like Zimmer? The only good thing about tonight is you discovered you're not going to give him an extension and you're not going to give Barr an extension. And that money better damn will go to the offensive line. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, Trey Waynes was good last year. Trey Waynes played really well last year.
I got news for you. You think Trey Waynes is bad? Are you watching number 20? Mackenzie Alexander doesn't belong on the field.
And Trey Waynes, by the way, in his defense, I don't think he's healthy at all. I think that injury, that was it a foot or an ankle or something he had in the 49ers game, he has not been, I don't think he's healthy at all. He had to leave the game today. I think Trey Waynes, I think there's a lot of ability there, and he was pretty good last year. He made big strides last year. I don't think he's healthy, and I think that's a big problem for him right now.
To Philadelphia, where the Vikings play next. E-Man, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? So I'm actually from Philly. I'm a huge Eagles fan, and I happen to watch in the Periscope, so I appreciate what you guys are doing. But my thing is that, honestly, I feel like Kirk Cousins is just really not the answer. I mean, look, I know they paid them a lot of money. I know he's has some types of brilliance and as he played for the Redskins, but I feel like that he's really going to cost your team some games, and he's just not the guy to make those key decisions. I mean, if you think about it, even when they get to the playoffs, like having that experience and just having just that intelligence to make the right pass and just step up in the pocket and feel the pressure, like Kirk Cousins can't do it. And honestly, I feel like at best this year the Vikings can be a wild card team. So I'm really, really concerned. And honestly, I think they need to start looking at a plan B for quarterback position.
Thanks for the call.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Well, listen.
There is no plan B for quarterback. There's 84 million reasons why there's not going to be a plan B for quarterback right now.
I'm with you on the fumbling problem being extremely troubling, but if your defense continues to play like this, forget about the whole thing. Don't be concerned about Kirk Cousins when the hallmark of your football team has put out consistent clunkers, essentially, since the second half of the Saints game. Let's not worry about the quarterback play right now.
Judd, he threw for 422 yards tonight.
And
don't get me wrong.
I'm with you. I'm not debating you.
The fumble at the end, and that's something we've talked about with Kirk Cousins for weeks now. Does he sense pressure? Can he step up into the pocket and sort of avoid a sack, avoid pressure and that sort of things? I think that is a bit of an issue for you. But the only reason why you stayed in this game and the only reason why you had a chance to go down and tie this game was because Kirk Cousins threw for 422 yards tonight. He kept you in this game.
All you need to know is this. The Minnesota Vikings generated on 71 offensive plays 446 yards tonight. The Rams, 556 on 55 plays. This is not a Kirk Cousins problem tonight.
By the way, on Kirk Cousins too, and this speaks to a bigger problem I think that needs to be talked about with his offense. Kirk Cousins was also your leading rusher tonight with 28 yards.
They can't run the ball.
They cannot run the football, and that's a problem.
Listen.
That is a problem.
The defensive line or the defensive performance shocks me, all right?
Yep.
But the offensive line doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, they can't run the ball.
This is what we called, hey, Bob, what's up?
Hey, guys, this defense is horrendous. I mean, I think this is all on Zimmer, too.
Think about what you're saying, Bob. Think about what you just said.
Yeah. We're a year removed, Bob, from this defense being number one.
You just said this defense is horrendous.
Think about that.
And think about what we thought about this defense 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And why was Barr covering all these receivers? I mean, he's obviously not fast enough to cover them, and I think that's on Zimmer, too. And Rhodes, what a bum he's been. I mean, kicking the flag there, that was inexcusable.
Thanks, Bob. Agreed completely. That was absolutely stupid. You held the guy. That's your fault. It's a 5-yard automatic first down to kick the penalty marker and take a 15-yard penalty is inexcusably stupid. So was getting in a verbal confrontation with your head coach, which you did last Sunday against Buffalo. Xavier Rhodes needs to calm down.
Yeah, this it's really a shame, Judd, because this guy is super talented, and when he's on, he's as good as any defensive back, as good as any cover corner that there is in this league. But every once in a while, if he gets beat on a play, all of a sudden he has to come out. Then the next play, like we saw it tonight. He comes out of the game because he's kicking a flag and he gets pulled off the field. The next play is when Cooper Kupp had the long touchdown, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, I mean, you're supposed to be the number one corner. They need you out there. You can't get yourself pulled out of a game because you want to kick a penalty flag.
Yeah, and Holton Hill was playing,
up.
by the way. Holton Hill.
Yeah. Wake up.
Had to play.
They need you.
TCL Broadcast Studios is where we are. It's Viking Vent Line Late Night Edition. Zolgad, Manny Hill, Jonathan Harrison doing a great job producing as always. And Ken, you're up next on Vent Line, so go ahead and vent.
All right. So I know that the offense played actually, I thought, really well. But this offensive line, as far as run blocking, has been horrendous.
Oh, brutal.
I mean, 14 yards last week, and your leading rusher is your quarterback. I understand that you need to try to establish the days of, the power running game and, using the run to set up the pass is over. But you still need to have some semblance of a running game. You can't have any semblance of a running game if you're only gaining 2 and 3 yards per run, and then you have to abandon it because your defense is so bad right now that, and which I can't get over, that
join the club.
Anthony Barr has been a joke this year. I mean, he has been a joke. I mean, I understand you didn't get your contract and you're upset about that, but come on, man. I mean, give some effort. I understand that scheming-wise, they have you running with a wide receiver, which I don't get, but, I mean, he gave up on that long pass play to Cooper Kupp. You remember a few years ago when he ran down that Atlanta Falcon running back who caught that swing pass, chased him down from behind, and knocked the ball out? Where's that at? I mean, he just doesn't act like he even cares now. And, I mean, no, there's hardly any type of pass rush going on. So with our secondary being pathetic, I just can't get over how bad this defense has gotten in such a short amount of time.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate the call. Well said.
Yeah.
And you're.
I mean, I don't know if I want to question Anthony Barr's effort, but there's something wrong there.
Well, touchdown one on the pass to Gurley was a magnificent pass by Goff, who made some great throws tonight, but that was Barr's guy, and he didn't do his job.
Right.
Touchdown 2 on Kupp. TV replays seem to indicate Mackenzie Alexander had Kupp. Kupp ran a crossing route across the face there. Alexander either was supposed to stay with his man or didn't,
I think he
but
was
that's not Barr's
to.
guy.
Right.
So that's not
Barr got put in a bad situation on that play.
That's not Barr's fault. It's somebody's fault.
I think it was Mackenzie Alexander, because Mackenzie Alexander somehow he fell back in coverage, and the next thing you know, you had 3 Viking defenders on one guy, and Mackenzie Alexander was kind of like the third guy, and you're looking at him like, what are you doing over there?
And Manny, what's weird about it is McVay and Goff did a great job tonight for the most part. McVay called a great game, but all they were doing was using their talent, which is very, very high, to exploit things that they saw on film.
Yeah.
Because we saw this: San Francisco, Green Bay, Buffalo.
Yep.
They're just better than those teams at doing it.
Yes.
So it looked worse. But we have seen the Saints basically found a fatal flaw that they started to exploit in the second half of that playoff game, and ever since then,
the Eagles carried it on.
It's been on. 651-646-8255, 877-615-1500. Late Night Vent Line TCL Broadcast Studios is the location. One line open. Once again, 651-646-8255. In the Metro, let's go to Ryan. Hi, Ryan.
Oh, hello, fellas. How's it going?
Good.
Oh, we're hanging in there.
Listen, I guess my question is, when Adam Thielen got kneed in the head, and they didn't call the flag, and then all of a sudden they just took him on and put him in the tent, why wouldn't they call a flag on that, and they just can take him off the field after that?
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan, for the call. I wasn't really expecting a flag there, because it
wouldn't be a flag.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a flag unless it was helmet to helmet, right?
Yeah, and he didn't intentionally get kneed. Cousins threw him into the coverage.
Yeah.
Thielen,
kind of a thing.
Thielen got his head taken off, but it was incidental contact. And there is a concussion guy, concussion doctor, specialist, head specialist in the press box who has the ability to flag a hit like that and then call for a concussion test to be given, which is why Thielen, who was very upset, had to leave the field and go in that tent. But that's all part of this concussion protocol. And if you want to say, well, that's BS, that's fine. But the National Football League is very, very concerned. They're being sued for a lot of money because of this.
Is it ATC spotters or something they call it, where they're supposed to look
that's
for
their job,
like that?
though. That's
why they're out there, yeah.
Hey, Brandon in Texas.
Hey, guys. I know we all thought that Mike Zimmer was going to make Anthony Barr rotate on the line, but maybe he wanted to make him a corner or something. I don't understand why he's covering receivers. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah. We've talked about that. Now, once again, though, here's the one thing to keep in mind. Just because a guy's trying to desperately trail a guy on the play on TV doesn't mean that that's always that guy's player.
Right.
I'll go back. Second TD, Cooper Kupp, that's not Barr's guy.
Right.
Barr's desperately trying to catch up.
That was Mackenzie Alexander goofing up that play.
Right. So don't be, or we at least think that was the case. The point being is don't always, just because the guy's closest does not mean he screwed the play up completely. That being said, we do know, as we talked about the outset event line here, Anthony Barr's not very adept at coverage.
No.
He's just not, which is
and
why.
And that's always, since he came into the league in 2014, that's always been an issue for him.
We've got one line open again, 651-646-8255, 877-615-1500 if you're outside the metropolitan area. Chancey in Fargo. Hi, Chancey.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm a little late getting in here today, so I'm sure everybody's already slammed the defense repeatedly, but I will pile right on here and pound them as well. I just, you said just now, Judd, that Anthony Barr is not good at covering people. What is he good at? I'm serious, because I'm sure glad they didn't sign him to a contract extension. I used to think he was going to be kind of that 3-4 outside linebacker, blitzing, hitting the quarterback, rushing. He doesn't really do that. He doesn't really stop the run. He lets guys run wide open. So here, if you guys have press credentials and you can go to a Mike Zimmer press conference, I'd like you to go there and ask him this question. Why is Anthony Barr still on the field? And when he reacts rudely and indifferently to you, as I'm sure he will, and rolls his eyes, just respond to him, did you see the game? Did you see the game? And please do that for me. I beg it of you, because I don't have press credentials, or I would. But I've been I'm not saying fire Mike Zimmer. And every time I call in, I have to couch it with that, because people get really defensive. Mike Zimmer's untouchable. He is the greatest defensive mind since Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick put together, but he is supposed to be kind of the defensive guru, right? If this was Sean McVay, offensive guru, against Mike Zimmer, defensive guru, this was a TKO in round one, all right? So I'm kind of tired of the excuses. I'm tired of hearing about somebody's hurt and somebody's knee's bad and somebody's injured and somebody's head isn't in the right place. This defense hasn't looked decent since, before that second half of the Saints game. I mean, it's been bad teams, good teams, on the road, at home. There's something wrong, and Zimmer needs to take the blame. And like I said, please go to the press conference and lay it out just like I said. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chancey. Talk to you later.
On the pass rushing thing, that's a great call by Chancey. On the pass rushing thing with Anthony Barr, the reason why, we're not even seeing them try to do that with him. We're not even seeing them trying to,
which is what we expected.
Yeah, we thought that that's what we were going to see them do with him, and instead he's trying to cover Brandon Cooks in open field. Why? He can't do that.
A year ago at US Bank Stadium, Mike Zimmer schooled Sean McVay, and it was that simple.
Yeah.
Tonight, McVay schooled Zimmer.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Jared Goff looked, other than the first drive at US Bank Stadium last year, Jared Goff looked scared. He looked frightened. He looked like he wanted no part of this Viking defense. And tonight he threw for 465 yards, 5 touchdowns, had a perfect quarterback rating. Kupp, 162 yards receiving. Cooks, 116. And Robert Woods, 101. And the touchdowns went 2 for Kupp, 1 for Cooks, 1 for Woods, 1 for Gurley. So, yeah, he basically turned the tables, and Sean McVay this time around schooled Mike Zimmer. Hey, John.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. Appreciate it. Rooting for the best with you guys with the new programming. I'll say this. Instead of Bucket Aikman calling that game, it should have been Rod Serling, because the Vikings have officially entered the Twilight Zone. I mean, if you go back 2 weeks, 4 weeks, what if I told you we've got a quarterback that can win us a game, we have an offensive line that, for the most part, does their job against arguably the best defensive line in the league, and then we have a kicker that does his job, and the problem is this vaunted defense. It is an utter 180 from any sort of narrative that was talked about just a couple of weeks ago. It's unreal. But with that being said, I know it's Vent Line, but I've got 2 things of optimism going forward, one short-term, one long-term. The defense will not get worse than this. Short week, best offense in the league on the road. We're going to settle somewhere between what we saw tonight and what we saw last year. And then what I want to get your guys' thoughts on is the optimism I have going forward is I think we can already tell that Spielman and company have allocated money to the right people. Diggs is a warrior. Cousins, he's got to be borderline top 10, top 12 quarterback in this league. He's shown that already. And then Daniil Hunter, I think we'll be talking about as the best player on this defense at the start of next year. So that gives me hope that we gave the money to the right core and didn't give the money to someone who might not be as good as we thought, like an Anthony Barr.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The only player that I'm worried about that they gave money to right now is Eric Kendricks.
That's fair.
Because you can't find him with a searchlight right now, man.
Yep. And I'll say this.
He's just non-existent right now.
Cousins skill-wise does impress you.
Yeah.
And to go back to, if you didn't hear his stats for tonight, 422 yards passing, 36 completions, 3 touchdowns. But you can't be a top 10 quarterback unless you can A, protect the football, and B, that debacle at the end of the first half was
oh my gosh.
Unexcusable.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. I'm surprised nobody's called in about that yet.
That can't happen.
And Judd, that's becoming like routine now.
Yeah.
Every week that's happening. You get to the end of the first half, you're trying to run some sort of a 2-minute drill, and you botch the clock management. He's running up to the line of scrimmage, trying to spike it or run another play or whatever. He's letting 25 seconds run off the clock. Like, what was that tonight?
I have no idea.
You have a timeout. You complete a pass to Rudolph.
13 yards.
With 28 seconds left. Mm-hmm. And then you let 22 seconds run off the clock before you spike it or call a timeout or whatever the hell it was that they did.
Top 10 quarterbacks don't do that.
Yeah.
They just don't. John?
Couple questions that I would like someone in the media to ask George or the head coach.
Mike.
Number one is, why did you sign George Iloka? Number two is, who are your top 10 cover guys in ranking order? And can George Iloka cover guys better than Anthony Barr? Thank you.
John, the Iloka conundrum continues, and he was there. I mean, I can confirm he's alive and well. I've got no answer on this one.
I don't know.
And
why?
And by the way,
bring him in?
And by the way, you did go back to the 3 safety package in the fourth quarter of tonight's game.
But it was with J-Ron Kurtz, right?
So I can't explain this. I don't know why you signed him. I don't know what you were thinking. I don't know what he did that caused him for you to decide he can only play special teams. It's a complete mystery that a guy that well versed in Mike Zimmer's defense can't play in Mike Zimmer's defense.
Yeah,
I just have no.
It's mind boggling. I don't get it.
Joe, you're on Vent Line.
Hey, yeah, just calling. In all honesty, not too surprised. Just looking 2000, 2001, terrible. 2009, 2010, terrible. But just looking at this schedule, so optimistic, split Lions, split Bears, beat the Packers. I see 5 more wins, maybe. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And like everyone else said, defense is terrible.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, and the problem is, too, we knew that this first stretch of 5 games was very difficult.
And that's why losing that game to Buffalo.
That's what I was going to say. That's the problem.
That's why.
You can't lose that game.
Yeah, you just can't.
Tonight's loss, how it transpired does surprise me, but the loss does not shock me.
Right.
So this is why that
because we knew going into the season that this was going to be a tough game and potentially a loss. But what puts you behind the 8 ball is, well, first of all, your kicker couldn't make a field goal to get you to win a game in Green Bay, and then you came out and laid an egg against one of the worst teams in football at home. That puts you where you're at right now at 1-2-1.
One phone line open, 651-646-8255, 877-615-1500 if you're outside the metropolitan area. Nick, you're on Viking Vent Line.
What's up, Nick?
Hey, guys. First time, long time. Appreciate you guys, everything you do. I was actually calling in originally about what the heck happened in the end of the second half there. I mean, I've played enough Madden in my day, and I'm sitting in the backyard with my buddies drinking beer, and we're all saying, run, spike the ball, let's go. Like, how do you mismanage that situation at the end of the half? It's a 1-score game. You could have taken a couple shots in the end zone. I don't know, just an old familiar feeling. Love listening to you guys. Appreciate the call. Appreciate everything.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking when you're moving down. And by the way, you're moving down the field against a defense that was begging you to score points against them.
Mm-hmm.
You get the 13-yard pass to Rudolph. You're thinking, okay, he's going to go. Well, first I thought, because I think they had 2 timeouts left, I thought they were going to use a timeout. And then when he ran towards the line of scrimmage, I was thinking, okay, he's going to just go clock the ball. And he clocked the ball from shotgun. The whole thing was bizarre.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, if you're going to go
22 seconds run off the clock. If you're in a hurry-up offense, a 2-minute offense, 22 seconds should never run off. That many seconds should never run off the clock in a hurry-up situation.
That did not look like a veteran quarterback who had an office at one Redskin place studying the game of football. It looked like me playing football. Hey, Jeff.
Okay, so write this down, Jeff.
All right, I will.
You like writing things down?
It's not Friday yet, but I'll
write this down.
Close enough.
I don't have a pen.
I got one.
Okay, remember that then. So we'll be playing the Rams in January again in the Coliseum, unfortunately, but that's where we'll be playing them. Everybody's touched on the first half thing, and I didn't get in right at the beginning of the show, but where was Delvin? Was he hurt? What happened?
Who's that again? I'm sorry.
My buddy. Where was Cook? I texted my buddy at halftime. I said, Murray better not be on the field again, and that's all we saw.
Fox said that he was not injured on the sideline on a pitch count.
What the hell? I mean,
I'm just telling you what I heard, Jeff. I'm just telling you what. I'm just the messenger here, Jeff. I didn't do anything wrong.
I know, but even when he was in the game, they didn't even run one swing pass, no screens to him, which could have. I mean, I don't know, but here's the big thing. I'm not surprised. I put $10 on the Rams. Short week, road game, and after the Bills, I'm actually pretty pleased that we were that competitive, and our offense was able to do what our offense was able to do. And Zimmer's got to fix the defense. That's what he's supposed to do. So it's a long season, man. The Patriots lose in the beginning of the season. The Packers lose in the beginning of the season. All of a sudden, you look up and they're in the playoffs at the end. So I got faith still. I'm going to hold on, see what happens against the Eagles.
All right, Jeff. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Dalvin Cook, 10 carries, 20 yards tonight. And Jeff was right. He wasn't targeted once tonight. So he wasn't a factor in the passing game at all. And that's what Dalvin Cook does, right? Even if he's on a pitch count or a touch restriction or whatever. Okay, but utilize him in the passing game. Get him out in open space, because if he's only going to get 2 yards a carry because your offensive line can't run block, get him out in space. Try to make something happen.
And if Dalvin Cook didn't have a great night because of the hamstring and he had a good first 2 games, I think we'd be like, okay, I get that. But this is the story of his season so far. There's just no space. There's nothing available. He's getting hit immediately. Let's continue to run some phone calls. Hey, Tim in Washington, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, Judd. Hey, Manny.
Hey.
So I'm going to assume that Mike Zimmer knows a lot more about football than you two or any of the callers tonight.
Fair.
And with that said, I'm going to guess that he's taken a look at the second half of the Saints game and tried to figure out what exactly Breeze and Sean Payton exposed. He needs to do it again, because we know this defense has talent. We know that Anthony Barr is a good football player. Mackenzie Alexander and Mike Hughes can both play better than they have been. This is strictly scheme, whether it be switching to a 3-4 with Griffin out, or putting Barr on the line, maybe moving Iloka to safety and using Harrison Smith as a hybrid safety linebacker on all the plays. Something needs to change schematically, because teams have found a way to exploit Zimmer's popular double A gap scheme.
All right,
I just
Tim.
want to know what your thoughts about that are. And on a personal note,
I agree with you.
I'm moving to Minnesota in a few weeks, and I put my resume in at 1,500, and it's just my opinion that I should be hired.
Okay. I will pass that along to the powers that be, Tim. How about that?
Thanks, Tim.
See ya. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely Mike Zimmer, listen, nobody's saying Mike Zimmer doesn't know defense. Yeah, this is not a conversation about us taking over and trying to run the Vikings defense. Am I perplexed by what's happening? Absolutely, and I think that's very fair. And have things been exploited? You would have to be crazy, Manny Hill, to sit here and say, well, I think they're going to get it next week. In Philadelphia, they'll get it.
Right.
Things have been exploited here that it's concerning.
Yeah. Vikings Vent Line, by the way, brought to you by Lucky's 13 Pub here on 1500 ESPN, KSTP, St. Paul, Minneapolis. Yeah, I mean, on the scheme thing, again, like we've said, Mike Zimmer could take me to school on football and writing all that stuff. So I'm not trying to be an expert here, but look, you got you got your linebacker out in space trying to cover wide receivers, something that he clearly can't do and has never been able to do. So something is wrong.
Well,
something is wrong.
And this, once again,
you've got to make an adjustment.
And this isn't passing fault here, but there is no question that Terrence Newman is desperately missed.
Oh, yes. Without question.
But that's not saying I know more about football than Mike Zimmer. That's not saying that Terrence didn't come to him and say, Mike, I think I'm cooked. I'm done.
Yeah.
But if you watch these games, they're nickel asking a rookie and or Mackenzie Alexander to play one of the most intricate positions on defense, which in the Zimmer defense, I'm sure is more intricate than most.
Mm-hmm.
You can at least identify that and say, hey, it's a problem. We'll continue on with the phone calls. Hey, Scott.
Hey, good evening, and thanks for doing your show, and thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Who would have thought 6 weeks ago that we would be in this panic over this defense? And that's what, for me, is so shocking, is how bad they got so fast. And then Rick Spielman, I think, has a hand in all this because he did absolutely nothing to fix this offensive line in the offseason. Did nothing with it, and now you're expecting, now this team has to get into shootouts. We can't run the ball. And it's just, I don't even know where this team goes with the offensive line and this defense. And I'm going to cut them some slack this week because they came out with fight tonight. Zimmer was clearly out-coached again because he was on a short week, and preparing for, McVay like that is tough. So I'm going to cut him some slack. But here's where the season really, for me, is going to be on the line, is when they go to Philadelphia with 10 days to prepare. Zimmer, there should be no reason that he gets out-coached again. And if he does, then people got to stop giving him the free pass and letting him off the hook with all of the, the negativity that goes on. And just like the one caller said before, somebody needs to ask him that in the press conference, like, hey, did you see the game? With his performance and the coaching.
I'm going to let someone else ask that question. I prefer to keep my teeth.
Yeah. Did he, forget the coach all of a sudden? What is going on? Why did he not make adjustments with Anthony? Why is Anthony Barr covering Brandon Cooks? Or Cooks? Why is he doing that? There should have been some sort of adjustment made. It happened multiple times in that game. And did he, forget how to do this all of a sudden? That's what's so concerning for me, is how the defense got so bad, and we're not seeing the same kind of adjustments that we saw last year.
Thank you, Scott.
So I guess that's all.
All right.
Yeah, I think you got to look at Rick Spielman as going back to the offensive line thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, you drafted Mike Hughes. You liked him. He played well in training camp and in the preseason. He's shown some signs of being a very good player down the line for you right now, but he is a rookie and he's inexperienced. And when you put him out there, there's going to be some problems just because he's a rookie. But the fact that you did not really do anything to address this offensive line in the offseason, they cannot run the ball.
No.
They cannot run the ball.
That was a first guess.
And what's crazy to me, and I'm going to go back to special teams here. So you draft Mike Hughes. Okay, fine. Personally, I think they should have gone with an offensive lineman there. But I can see the theory behind going to get a defensive back who you have high hopes and has high upside and all that stuff. But then in the second round, you draft an offensive lineman in Brian O'Neill, but he's nowhere near ready to play.
Yeah, project tackle instead of a guard.
Yeah. So going back to special teams here, if you're Rick Spielman, you're gonna make this effort to trade up to take a big-legged kicker who you ended up having to cut after week 2 because he can't make kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you not apply that same strategy to trading up to get an offensive lineman, which was much more of an area of need on your roster than your kicking game? Your kicking game was fine. It was fine. And you're sitting back saying, hey, I'm going to trade up and get this big-legged kid from Auburn.
You also cut your punter, too.
Yeah.
And this kid
why are you going and trying to address things that don't need to be addressed, and you're leaving the area of your roster that needs help? You're not addressing it at all. It makes no sense to me.
Dan, does it make sense to you?
I mean, I was kind of going to get on you guys a little bit and some of the callers for all the O-line talk, but yeah, actually what Manny just said does make a lot of sense to me. But I just feel like we're just kind of beating a dead horse about not going out in the offseason, improving the offensive line. Because 2 years ago they signed Remmers and Reese to big contracts, and those guys are marginal at best. And you had to do it, but I mean, I just feel like people don't talk enough about how it's a hard cap league, and they just act like, we should just improve every area, and you have to pick and choose your spots. And is anybody disappointed in the contract we gave Kirk Cousins? Because he looks really, really good, and he looks like he's going to be good for a few years, and so you just kind of have to accept that certain things are going to be areas of weakness.
Yeah, but Dan, the one thing I would say is this. You had a chance to draft for the guard position, which was of huge need. So we're not even implying that they should have gone out and paid a guy a lot. We're saying there was a run on guards.
Take a guy.
Why wouldn't you do that? That's just common sense.
Agreed, and that's what I said, like what Manny just said.
Right.
That's very fair. But here's what I'll say. And you guys do a great job. Nothing against you guys. Love you. But I miss a little bit because he seems to always kind of be a reason. Judd, I love your passion, but you're a little bit more of you're very passionate, and you let that get the best of you sometimes. I think we need to, if we lay an egg against Philadelphia, I'll be more concerned. But I mean, I think most of us, even realistic fans, when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, said we might be 2-3 after these 5 games, and then we'll make some hay after this. So, I mean, if we beat Philadelphia, we're not panicking. I mean, some of these people are ready to just jump off the season.
It's the Buffalo loss.
Yeah, no,
the Buffalo loss.
And I agree with that. But if we come back, we have 10 days in a revenge game against Philadelphia. That's why I'm saying I'm waiting to panic till after that.
Right,
if we come out and we get creamed, but if we come out and we beat Philadelphia with 10 days, it's a completely different conversation. And thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Now you have to beat Philadelphia.
Yeah, you're going to be
because and again
1-3-1.
And again, why, Judd? Because you kicked away that game in Buffalo, not in Buffalo. It was here. You didn't even bother showing up.
You didn't show up
against the Buffalo Bills, and now you're in a situation where you have to win one of the next 2 games. Well, you lost tonight, so now you got to go into Philadelphia and win.
Hi, Martell.
Hey, how you doing? I just want to bring up 2 points here. No one's really talking about Goff. The guy was going crazy. You see those passes he was doing?
He's great.
They're on the money. You can look at all the plays, and you can see these Viker defenders were within an arm's reach, but he's dropping them perfect. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. You can't beat that. The guy was almost Aaron Rodgers-esque in a way. And then the second thing I want to talk about, Everson Griffin, he's a big impact. Imagine you have Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin on each side. You're putting pressure on Goff. What did Weatherly do? He didn't do nothing. So they're looking at it when they're studying the tape. They're like, there's no Everson Griffin. We could kill this team. And that's what they were doing. There's no pressure on Goff.
Except Martell.
So there's a lot to think about.
Martell. The second touchdown to Cooper Kupp ran free, though. He can't run free.
That's true. Yeah. I mean.
So don't make things worse.
Yeah. And the thing with Barr, the guy said it from the Saints game. Sean Payton's a smart coach. He figured out what the Vikings was doing since that second half to do that comeback. And from there, teams have been watching the blueprint because we go to Philadelphia and we get blown out. They've seen the blueprint and we haven't fixed that yet. We played a San Francisco team that we really don't know who's that good. But other than that, who did we beat? I don't know. I don't know if we could hit the panic button though. That's the last thing I'm going to say because we still got a lot of games. And if you look at that second half of the season, there is that Patriots game, which I think is kind of we might have a shot, might not, but it's in their house. who knows? But it's not as bad as it seems going down the rest of the road. We just got to get a Philly win and maybe hold on to the Bears and get a win in their place. And I think at that time and point, then we can start seeing where we're at, and we could start putting the panic button.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martel. Let's go to, hey, here's one. Hi, Patrick in Golden Valley.
All right. I need a favor out of Manny.
Yes, sir.
Can you maybe tomorrow when you're on air with Mackie and Judd to get them to admit they might have been slightly premature in declaring Dalvin Cook one of the 5 or 6 best running backs in the league in August there when they were assessing the season?
How about us declaring the defense was one of the greatest of all time? You want to start there, Pat, in Golden Valley?
I can't get on you about that because I agreed. I agreed with that. What was that? Man alive.
Yeah, it was
I mean, that is a high-powered offense. There's no doubt about it. But God almighty. And what's with cramps, man? What's with cramps? We're the most crampy team in the history of sports.
Xavier goes out once a game, Pat.
Cramps in Green Bay, for God's sake.
Yeah.
40 degrees in Green Bay, and we have cramps there. We're the crampiest team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it was, what a shootout, though, man. It was unbelievable. But, I heard you talking, All of a sudden the game's on the line. They got a chance to tie it. We got Rock Thompson in the game. Where the hell's Dalvin?
Yeah, they said he was fine.
They said was it a pitch count or something, right?
Blazers
Yeah, they said it
on
on a restriction on how many touches he would get, Pat.
Okay.
And they didn't they didn't use him at all in the passing game, Pat, at all.
The last time that the pitch count was used that wisely, it was Steven Strasburg when the Nationals said, "We'll get back to the World Series the next time." When we don't have to use him because he's on a pitch count because of his Tommy John surgery. So
yeah, I think you're right.
You got to have him. I mean, they're handing you a chance to tie the game, and Dalvin Cook's not there.
Yeah,
yeah, Pat. We were talking about that the 2nd and 7 for the Rams. Todd Gurley's getting 5 yards a pop for you. Why are you throwing the ball?
And the other thing
you gave the Vikings only had to use one timeout. They only had to burn one timeout there and gave them a chance to try and tie the game.
But they got away with it tonight. But when you have to either make 3 plays on defense or 4 inches to win the game, I'm going for the 4 inches, especially when I got Todd Gurley. Why did they punt?
And
you know what? Instead of messing around and thinking you're going to get some idiots to jump offside, go up and take the snap count boom while everybody's jumping around thinking you're going to do it and, get your first down. That kid's about 6'5", 6'4" or 5. Although Manny, all that fun we were making of him when he was a rookie hasn't quite turned out that way.
Yeah, he doesn't have a dinosaur. He doesn't have a dinosaur as his head coach anymore, Pat.
How about that throw for the into the right corner of the end zone there? That he dropped into was that I hate to say this, I hate to be a stereotype guy, but the white kid. What's the name of the white kid?
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper
Kupp.
Cooper Kupp. It's a perfect white guy name.
Dropped into Cooper Kupp's hands, and wow. There were some fantastic throws in that game. Cousins made a couple of fantastic throws, too.
They're so good, Pat, just across the board with the quarterback, the offensive line, the running back, the receivers. There's no weakness in that offense at all. It's crazy.
Okay, so I got a question for you. Did Aaron Donald just say, I'm going to just, settle here and for 3 quarters and not worry about it that much, and then when I have to make some big plays at the end, I will if I have to. Since they're going to
abuse poor Tom Compton.
Yeah.
But they must have been doubling him all day. He didn't get a call for 3 quarters.
Yeah, they were doubling him a few times. They would put Elflein and Compton on him a few times. It looked like, but when Compton was on him 1-on-1, he had no chance.
Mm-hmm.
Donald just
went
right around him.
The offensive line with Elflein back looked a lot better.
Yeah, pass protection. Yeah, they pass protection. I thought was a lot better.
All right, Royce. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat.
Well, anyway, I think you were premature on declaring.
Oh yeah, no, we were.
What was the estimate? 900 yards minimum.
Yeah. Okay, we were really wrong. Bye. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Eric. I think Eric just hung up. Phil, go ahead.
Hi, guys. Wow, it's an honor to follow the legend Patrick in Golden Valley.
Yes, it is.
I wanted to call with a little bit of positivity. I love the trio of Cousins, Diggs, and Thielen. I love their leadership on the sideline. I thought they all played their hearts out tonight and played awesome games. Especially want to focus on Cousins because I still feel like there's some negativity in the fan base from paying so much money and the comparisons to Keenum.
Sure.
He's pretty much like Matthew Stafford at this point in that we have no run game this year.
Yep.
We have no ability to run the ball. We haven't got the run game going at all. Our offensive line, regularly we get the speed rush around Riley Reed for our tackle. He's getting hit when he can't even see. Like, you can't blame that last strip sack on him. And I know that our hurry-up offense has not looked great, but he still drove us down at the end of the first half, got the field goal. He would have been able to run one more play at most, and it might have just got an extra, 8 yards for a field goal we made anyways. It's nice to have a good kicker, but I do agree with a lot of people. Philly is a must-win. I hope we can do it after 10 days. I will be there with 11 other huge Vikings fans.
Don't wear your jersey. Do not wear your jersey. Listen to me this time. Don't wear your jersey to the link.
We've been warned.
Don't do it.
We're going in a group of 12.
Here's what you do. Here's what you do. You can wear a Vikings jersey, but wear an Eagles hoodie over on top of it. That's what you do.
All right, that's
so
fine.
If you still want to wear your Vikings jersey, go ahead, but just cover it in some sort of Philadelphia Eagles
Phil,
garment.
I want you to be safe. I want you to return home in one piece. Don't wear a Vikings jersey with nothing else.
Thank you. We'll definitely take heed your advice.
All right, bye.
Take into consideration.
See ya.
Thanks.
Tim, what's up?
Hey, guys. First off, Manny, welcome to the team. You've been a great addition, so it's been really refreshing to see you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
And second of all, I wanted to give the real MVP award to tonight, which is McDermott, the long snapper, for losing that fingernail. Bumps and bruises, those heal, but, his kids are going to be looking at that scab and that stub, and his wife's not going to look at him the same with no fingernail. So I really wish him luck, and he's a trooper. So let's give him some props in a moment of silence, maybe.
All right, Tim. Thanks. Player of the game, Sean McDermott, the long snapper. How about that? Although Cousins was good, Thielen 8 catches, 135 yards, a 45-yard touchdown, and Diggs also had 11 catches for 100+ yards. Will, thank you for holding. You're on Viking Vent Line. We're in the TCL broadcast studios.
Hey, couple things. Number one, I think not all coaches, not just Minnesota coaches, but especially coaches, because you saw Zimmer tonight and, Tracy Claeys, I think, against Michigan 2 or 3 years ago. Time management, there needs to be a coach whose job is to watch the clock and decide when to call timeouts, tell them when to run up and spike the ball. Somebody who doesn't have to worry about the X's and O's and the play calling, who can just focus on that. I think it's too much for one person to do all of it in high-pressure moments. Secondly, if you look at history, the last couple of years, about 50% of the teams that made the playoffs the previous season do not make it the next season. And it's just starting to seem like the Vikings are going to be one of those teams. It happens almost every year. And, I know some people aren't ready to panic, but I am. I think it was the spring of 2017. You had the wild panic watch. You had Dave Harrigan in the chopper.
Yeah.
I think you need to get him back to work. Get him back to work. You need to go in the chopper.
All right. Well, thanks much. Let's do this. Let's take a break. We're in the TCL broadcast studios. AQ, Andrew, Joe, and David, hang on. But before we go anywhere, Manny, you've got a word for Lucky's 13.
That's right. Lucky 13 Pubs is sponsoring Vikings Vent Line. We appreciate that. Lucky's has you covered for the best game day experience this football season. Tons of TVs, legendary appetizers, amazing fresh half-pound burgers, handcrafted sandwiches, and a wide variety of other pub favorites. The drink menu is fantastic, too. A huge selection of tap beer, handcrafted cocktails, the best Bloody Marys in town. Seriously, these Bloodies are fantastic. Try the Bacon Bloody, the Jalapeno Bloody, the Mother Mary. Or you know what? You can just get a flight and try them all, too. So you can maybe do that. Plus, Lucky's has they celebrate Sunday Fun Day, happy hour all day long on Sunday, every Sunday. Events and prize giveaways during games too. Lucky's 13. They have locations in Bloomington, Burnsville, Mendota, Plymouth, and Roseville. Having people over for the game, you can just call ahead, Lucky's, and order some of those legendary apps, and they'll be ready to bring them home when you get there. Find them online, Lucky's13pub.com, Lucky's13pub.com.
The show solely devoted to your reaction on the game. Vikings Vent Line now continues.
3rd down and 10. Cousins, end zone, flag, touchdown, Vikings, and Aldrick Robinson. Fake toss. Toward the end zone, touchdown again, Robinson. But they're built to win right now. And winning they are. Down goes Goff in the arms of Hunter. And a big play by this Vikings defense and Daniil Hunter.
Vikings Vent Line continues on, brought to you by Lucky's 13 Pub. Lucky's13pubs.com as Vikings lose to the Los Angeles Rams tonight, 38-31. Vikings now 1-2-1 on the season. Manny Hill back here with you, and we're just going to fire away with some more calls here as we continue on with this last segment of Vikings Vent Line. AQ in St. Paul, you're on Vikings Vent Line, brought to you by Lucky's 13 Pub. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? First of all, I want to say I love you guys' show. Manny, I love to see my black brother succeeding. I'm a Packers fan, and I've been hearing a lot of stuff about Kirk Cousins. I want to shout out to that man. You guys finally know you guys finally realize what it is to have an elite QB and the rest of the team not succeeding. So I respect the heck out of Kirk Cousins. He's doing everything he can for his team. His defense is like the Redskins' defense now, and his O-line is completely bad. So I just want to give some respect to Kirk Cousins because he was like Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs every season.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, AQ. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins has been he's been good. I mean, there's a few things here or there that I want to see change a little bit with him in terms of just the clock, the pocket clock, I guess, so to speak, and stepping up in the pocket a little bit more to avoid some of those strip sacks. But overall, I mean, look, he threw for 422 yards today, threw for 450 yards against the Packers 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, he's been very good, and they needed him to. There was a reason why they gave him $84 million guaranteed, because they want him to have the ability to go out and throw for 400 yards if they need to. We just need that defense to step up and get better, and they need to start being able to run the football a little bit better too. Andrew in Los Angeles, were you at the game, Andrew?
Absolutely. Just got home actually from it, so my voice is a little shot from hooting and hollering on that shootout.
What's up?
It was a great game. One thing I want to say is we were only a couple plays away from winning against the number one team in the NFC, possibly the NFL right now, the Rams. I saw a couple of simple mistakes that can be fixed. Like, I think that was Hughes that was open in the flats that just took his momentum out of bounds when he had 15 yards in front of him, one juke, and he may have been gone for quite a bit more than that. Mismanagement of the clock, another one that you guys brought up in the end of the first half, was kind of disheartening to see. But the bottom line is we saw the offensive line take a step forward, not a step backwards today. We have a couple of strip sacks on the record for the beginning part of the season. That's something that we can get tightened up for sure. That's just some quarterback mechanics. Kirk has admitted that he sits in the pocket just a little bit too long. If we can get that release a little bit quicker, this team is not as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. The Bills game, everybody says the Bills game was a fluke game, and it really was. They were thinking about L.A. There's no doubt about that. And I think tonight the way we played against L.A. on such a short week proves the fact that that's what our attention was on. We held our own against the Rams. Our defense is still a little shoddy. We had a couple of.
Did we lose you, Andrew? I think we lost Andrew there. Thanks for the call. Joe in Fargo, you're on. Joe.
Hey, yeah.
There you go.
I don't want to call for anybody's head here, but I just think there needs to be a philosophy change from a drafting standpoint when you talk about Spielman. They've just gotten ridiculously lucky with Thielen. They didn't like him enough to draft him. Diggs, they obviously didn't think he was a number one guy if they wait till the 5th round, and now Cousins falls in their lap. But meanwhile, you got 4 first-rounders in secondary. I know Smith's been there for a while, but you got 3 corners with Rhodes. They just took a corner this last year, and a couple years ago, Michigan State guy. You got a first-rounder and a second-rounder at the linebacker position, and even Alexander is a high draft pick at a cornerback. But meanwhile, this whole time when we were looking at the draft, every time you watch coverage of it, what are the needs? The offensive line. They haven't addressed it at all, and I don't know if it's just placating to Zimmer or what it is, but they probably need to change that. And if you don't hit on those receivers in the ridiculously lucky fashion that they had, and having Cousins just fall in their lap, this team could be actually pretty bad, especially with the rule change. The defense is just not probably going to be as important going forward, and I just hope that maybe they address the offensive line next year or soon somehow, because they just don't have cap space. But that's just what I like to see going forward.
All right, thanks for the call, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I think with the offensive line and with the needs that it has right now, that you've had some opportunities to address that in the draft. I understand you went and got Riley Reif. You gave him a lot of money. You gave Mike Remmers a lot of money. You got to start putting in, investing your draft picks into these guys. And when you go and get Mike Hughes, who might end up being a really good player for you in the first round, that's fine. But you've got to find a way with your second round pick to try and get, if you're not going to invest your first round pick in an offensive lineman, you've got to find a way to address it in the second round with an offensive lineman that can actually help you right away. They drafted Brian O'Neill in the second round, knowing that he was going to be a project and knowing that he was not going to be able to contribute right away. You invested your second round pick in that. And maybe Brian O'Neill 3, 4, 5 years down the line becomes a really good player for you. But the problem is right now he can't be that for you, and you're trying to get to a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you trade up in the 5th round to draft a kicker when you didn't need to. And you cut a punt, or you let a punter go who was really good for you last year to replace him with another guy who, I don't know what's going on with Matt Weil. But that's what boggles my mind about Rick Spielman is he had opportunities to address a huge need for this team, and meanwhile he's trying to address needs that aren't really there. So anyway, moving on, the last couple of calls here. Jeff in Detroit, what is up? You're on Vikings Vent Line.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Just got a question of where is George Aloka? We went out and spent money on him, and seems like he would be a better fit in pass coverage than Barr would be. So what's the chances of us actually seeing him out there, and maybe instead of the big nickel, maybe a big dime with him and Jaron Curse both out there with Kendricks?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jeff. Yeah, I don't know if George Iloka will be better in pass coverage than Anthony Barr or not, but I sure as hell would like to find out. We haven't seen him yet. It would be nice to find out. David in Minneapolis, what's up?
Hey, I was just going to say that this year, aside from the obvious train wreck that the offensive line has been year after year, the biggest thing for me is like the regression of a lot of the defensive players. Like Trey Waynes tonight, there were a couple of times like that big touchdown catch where he's looking back at the ball, and then as it's coming to him, instead of making a play on the ball, he goes to try to find the receiver that's just beat him. He looks back at him and then watches it drop right in his hands. He could have made a play on the ball. And watching Sendejo, somebody catches 10 15-yard pass and then he tries to blow him up instead of actually making a play on the ball. It's kind of driving me crazy lately. And then the last thing, have you ever seen in a game where the refs throw a flag on an obvious block in the back, and then they pick the flag up, and then they actually name the foul that they weren't calling the foul on?
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering about that, too. That made no sense to me at all, David. Like, there was supposed to be a block in the back. It was a blatant block in the back on Sendejo, and then they didn't – they threw the flag and then picked it up. Like, that made no sense to me at all. And it was a blatant block in the back. So, yeah, that was ridiculous. All right, last call here on Vikings Vent Line tonight, brought to you by Lucky's 13 Pub. Josh in White Bear Lake, you're our final caller. What you got, man?
Glad to be last, I guess. Just two quick things. I guess, obviously we know all about the defense and everything, but if anybody's going to be in the hot seat, wouldn't it be Spielman or for the draft and taking Hughes in the first round? I guess I would really like to know who actually made that decision. Was it Zimmer or was it Spielman? But the second thing, too, is has anybody really thought about how much we actually miss Pat Shurmur for calling the offense? We kind of abandoned the run there. It just feels like the run game hasn't been going at all for the last 4 weeks here, and just it seemed like even before Cook got hurt, he was catching those outside run plays, and he just hasn't gotten anything here. So how much do we actually miss Shurmur is really what I want to know.
All right, Josh, thanks for the call. Yeah, the running game is a huge problem right now. I mean, Todd Gurley had 17 carries for 83 yards tonight. The Rams ran for 100 yards right on the button tonight on 20 carries. They got 5 yards a carry. I mean, you don't need a 1,700-yard back like Adrian Peterson was a few years ago for you to have an effective running game. You just got to be able to run the football with some effectiveness, and the Vikings cannot run the ball at all right now. And that's going to be a huge problem going forward here. All right, that's going to do it for Vikings Vent Line, brought to you by Lucky's 13 Pub. We appreciate them. Vikings lose at 38-31. Tune in to Mackie and Judd tomorrow. We're going to all break this down. Me, Phil, and Judd, we're all going to break this down, this loss by the Vikings. They are 1-2-1, and it's on to Philadelphia now. So we'll see what happens after that. Thanks for all those who called in. Thanks to Lucky's 13 Pub. Tune in to Mackie and Judd tomorrow. You can find this if you missed Vikings Vent Line tonight. If you missed most of it, you can find it on demand very shortly here, 1500ESPN.com, podcast1.com, and all that good stuff. All right, I'm Manny Hill. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Mackie and Judd.
Second down and 4, a little shoulder fake. Here's Thielen wide open. Thielen, touchdown, Minnesota. Treadwell back out there on third down. Here's Diggs, and on the deflection, what a catch. Under a minute and a half to go, quarter number 3. Seam throw, Woods, touchdown.